Hi, this is Captain Drew Cavanaugh with Florida Inshore Fishing Charters, located here in East Central Florida in Oak Hill, New Smyrna Beach, on the world-famous Mosquito Lagoon, Indian River Lagoon system. Today I'd like to talk to you, and I'm going to go over a few basic tips and concepts over what is sight fishing, the flats, and the basics, some quick basics on using a spin cast, a spinning rod setup like the one I have in my hand here. This is a Shimano Sustain 2500 on a St. Croix Legend Elite rod, light rod. The model is, let's see, it's a medium light power, 7 foot. Perfect, typical combination out here. DOA shrimp bait out here. I get a lot of questions all the time of people asking me, Captain, do you use bait casters? Can I bring a bait caster? And I usually tell them, well, typically we do not use a bait caster out here, just for the fact that if you can see this bait that we're using, it's very, very small. It's very light, even with the bullet weight on there. You know, you're talking a 1/4 ounce, and there's just no way to be able to throw this a good distance and get control over it with a bait caster. I myself, I use bait casters at time when I'm bass fishing, throwing bigger plugs and whatnot. But you're talking a whole different ball game. So I would say 95% of the guides out here and fishermen in general use a spin cast rod, whether it's this light rod or the next step up, a Sustain 4000, tarpon fishing, you know, a 6000, 8000, so on and so forth. The line that we are using here is 10-pound braided line. There's a 15-pound leader attached to here. So from the shrimp to the leader to the braid, maybe 60, 70 yards of braid on here. Then I back it with mono. There's no reason to put all braid on a line because you'll never go down that far. Typically you can take a spinning reel, back it with braid, or put braid on it all the way, 10-pound, 8-pound braid. I believe this is 8-pound braided line, Power Pro. Put it all the way on there. Then in every 4 or 5 months, just reverse it. Take it all off and put this end on the spool first. Then you have a brand new line. So some quick basics here. One of the big concepts is, like with a bait caster, if you're going to throw something like this, you're going to get a lot of backlash. And it's a good practice that if you're coming here to Florida and you're going to go fishing, whether you're going to go pleasure fishing or you're going to hire a guide, when you're fishing the flats out here, typically you're looking for fish that are tailing. It's 18, 20 inches of water, 2 foot max. The entire national park, Mosquito Lagoon, is right at, I think, a 3 foot average depth of the 27,000 acres. So that's pretty shallow. Versus, I know a lot of lakes everywhere else, whether you're up north or out west or wherever, you got dams, reservoirs that can be hundreds of feet deep and you're dropping a lot of stuff straight down. Out here it's not. You're seeing stuff in the distance, and the key is to be able to get on those fish before they see us. I can only get you so close to these fish before they're right here at the boat. First thing is a great pair of polarized sunglasses. These are Costa Del Mar's brine. I've got a few extra pair of these. Are the brines, amber lens, the 580p, great lens, copper, amber, or vermilion. Copper is probably your best go-to, a brown lens. The dark gray does not work very well. Avoid those at all costs. If you wear glasses, prescriptions, your best bet is go to the doctor, get a good pair of brown. If you have to, get a good pair of clip-ons. Just most important thing out here is a good pair of polarized sunglasses. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to be able to cast these plugs and see fish in advance. Okay, so let's go over some of the basic facts and techniques of what is exactly sight fishing. When you go fishing the flats out here, you have a couple different types of fishing that can go on. There's guides and fishermen that come out here, they sling 10 poles with 10 pieces of bait, and then they do this, and they say, well, within 5 or 6 hours we'll probably get a bite. Well, you know what? The laws of probability are on your side. That's what it is. Sight fishing is the art of just what it sounds like, sight fishing. It's almost in a hunting in a way, but you don't have to kill the animal. You stalk them. It's a stalking game. When you're sight fishing, your guide will push the boat around. You're up on the front of the boat like this, and you're looking for fish tailing, you're looking for fish in general, when you see them, your captain will yell out, hey, we have 2 fish, 2 o'clock, 20 feet, front of the boat's 12 o'clock, the engine's 6 o'clock, so on and so forth. Any boat you're ever in, always imagine it as a clock, so this way you can communicate back and forth to you and your guide, or anybody else you're with, and say, hey, what's that at 4 o'clock, 500 feet? Or what's that at 2 o'clock, 50 feet? Versus saying, hey, what's that over there? Because then they'll be like, well, I don't know, I think it might be the Keys, you know, for all I know, or Chicago. So, a couple basics on what is sight fishing. Well, sight fishing is that, a good pair of polarized sunglasses, a hat, so you're not doing the no hat salute all day. The hat is not to keep your head from getting sunburned, it's to keep the glare off you. The better you can see these fish, the better you'll be. So one of the key things is when you're out here fishing the flats with a spinning rod, because pretty much every guide's going to use this, is the grip. You're going to want to grab it. You don't want to grab it up here like this. You don't want to grab it back here like this. You want to be able to put your hand there and rotate the bail, and you want to barely pinch that line. There's no reason to get a death grip on that line like this. There's just no reason to pinch it like that. Just barely rest your finger on there. Then the next thing is this bail. You want to make sure this bail always flips to the right. Always to the right. Never this way, never this way. If you do it this way, see how that pinches it and it's back behind the bail there? Bad. Think of it like this. When you pinch it like that, you can barely see the line is perfectly parallel to the rod. That's the key there. You can see this a little bit closer here, so you just barely grab it, pinch it. Sorry, the boat's rocking a little bit out here. It's a little breezy day here. Had a boat come by, push off a little bit of a wake. So the first concept is you want also roughly about this much line out when you're making a cast. You don't want, I watch a lot of people that come out here and they'll have 10 feet of line and they're swinging it like it's a surf rod. No reason to do that. It's a very light tackle we're using. Let the tackle do the work for you, you know. Just barely throw it out there. Practice your targeted shot. If you live in an area where you don't have access to the water, put a bucket in your yard. Practice throwing in a bucket. So the basic concepts are this. Your grip is one. Spin the bail. You always want to do a two-handed cast. Why, you ask? I watch a lot of people, they throw one-handed, this and that, and it's okay in different circumstances. But out here, we're throwing at a fish that is 30, 40 feet away, and if that fish is the size of my arm, that bait has to go 4 or 5 inches in front of him, a foot in front of him, past him a little bit so it doesn't land on top of him and scare him, bring that bait back to his head to where it's right there where he can see it. The tail does not eat. So out here, the reason why a two-handed cast is imperative is think of it like this. You're a baseball player. You're up to bat. Do you see a baseball player hitting that ball one-handed? No, absolutely not. Do you see a golfer hitting a golf ball one-handed? No, absolutely not. The reason is control. You get more control over that baseball, golf ball, lure fishing rod. When I'm out here throwing, and say there's a fish over here in front at that cell tower towards it, like 1 o'clock, a couple miles away. Let's just say there's a fish 30 feet out. You just make a cast two-handed like that, and bam, you're better off a straight shot. Think of this as a rifle. Where this rod tip points, you want that bait to go in the shortest amount of time, in a precise amount of time, also with being able to make a soft presentation. If you go to throw at fish like this, and you throw down, and you slam it down on them, I guarantee you, if it's calm out and you're near them, they're gonna spook. One of the key things out here on the lagoon, and pretty much probably flats fishing anywhere, is these fish have one thing on their mind. That's survival, eating, food, reproduction. Survival is one of their biggest things. The first thing they think about when something slams down on them, death from above, is what I like to say. We have ospreys, eagles, I'm sure other places there's other predators that come in. I watch, another thing is you want to avoid the rainbow cast where it's way up in the air like that. As the day goes on, you'll get more and more shadow out here. As that sun's higher, I have watched it to where I myself have gone back in front of the sun, a lure go in front of the sun, next thing you know, the fish take off, and a lot of people are like, what happened? I'm like, they see your rod go in front of the sun, or they seen the bait go in front of the sun. It just scares them. It's death from above. They just see a shadow. They don't know what it is. It's instinct. So the first thing is a good grip. You know, don't be afraid when you see something. Don't be afraid to give it a good toss like that. You know, you want a good shortest distance between 2 points, straight line, A to B. The more slack that's in that line, the higher it is. You're up. If it's windy, the wind might grab it, cause it to go off course and whatnot. Another thing is that I see out here that'll help you is when you're sight fishing. If you see the water everywhere out there and you take your eyes off of a fish and you look away and he drops down, if this fish is tailing, and say the rod's the water line, his tail pops up, all of a sudden he drops down, you look away for a second, you look back up and you're like, where was he at? Because the water will play tricks on your eyes. So let's say you throw out there and you have a big clump of weeds on your line. All right, you're reeling it in, you missed the fish. You don't want to take your eyes off that fish. So keep your eyes on that fish, and as you're reeling, just swing the rod over to here. You grab the bait, my eyes are still out there. Rest the rod right there. You're not putting a $400, $500, $600, $700 rod and reel down on the bottom of the boat. Your eyes are still out there on the bait, or the fish rather. You can just reach down and feel with your hand the grass. Throw it back in the water, drop the lure back down there, just tip it a little bit. If you have too much line out, and a lot of people want to crank this up like this, it's almost overkill, you want to fine tune it, rotate the bail by hand. You'll get more precise inching it in there. Then you're able to reach up, reel it by hand. I can still have my eyes on the fish and then make the cast. When you're fishing 2 people on the boat, you want to stay still. Think turkey. I always say if you're a hunter or if you know about hunting or whatever, not that it has anything to do with it, but just if you pretend all these fish are turkey and deer, just like an animal, they spook easily. So it helps you, whether it's a bird in the yard or whatever. You have to think that they're creatures, they're animals. Survival instinct comes first to them. One of the things about the grass thing is I watch a lot of people doing this. They reel in grass, and next thing you know, they're reaching for the top of the rod like that, and they're just, you know, the rod's sitting down, getting scratched up. No need to do that. No need at all. So, a couple of the other basics are, you want to just stay focused. You want to stay focused up front. You want to scan the areas. Let your guide do the work. He's up higher behind you on the pulling platform. You have 2 sets of eyes here, 2 sets of eyes there. Listen to his directions, ask questions, so on and so forth. But as far as throwing the spinning rod and sight fishing, the best thing that you can do is get one. If you have access to the water, you know, just sit out there and practice. Make a couple casts and you can see what it's like. You know, you can just throw it in, steady retrieval. The second also, another thing is what I wanted to show you, is when you make a cast to a fish, you know, practice getting that bait up on top of the water. If you can see my rods pointing up, I know you probably couldn't see the bait on the water, the shrimp. As it's reeling in, think of a water skier. Once you gun that boat, that skier is up on plane moving. So as long as he's moving, he's not going to sink. So the reason why you want that bait up on top of the water is that as you're reeling it in, I can see it on top of the water. Your guide can see it on top of the water. The reason is you want to be able to tell where your lure is at in relative position to the fish's head and mouth. There's times you can throw it out there and your guide will say, move it to the left, move it to the left, move it to the right. So when you're throwing out there, if you have to throw it out, you get your rod up, he might say, move it to the left, move it to the left, move it to the left. You're able to, it just helps you figure it out where it's at. Because if you drop it down, you're in 2 foot of water and you lose track of it, you won't be able to tell where it's at in relative position. The other key example is, and I think this will go a lot, is instinct will say, somebody will say, hey, there's fish out there, and instantly somebody throws, and I'll sit there and ask you and say, what were you throwing at? Well, you said there's fish out there. Well, I'm sure there is. There's billions of them out here somewhere. Acquire your target. When you're up here sight fishing, take your time, process the information. Sit there, and when somebody says there's a fish at 2 o'clock, 20 feet, just don't guess to where he's at. Look for a second. 20 feet on the water is not that far. This rod is 7 foot, so just almost a little bit more than 3 of these. Acquire your target, look, take your time, and then process the information and make the cast. It'll help you improve your catch ratio. It'll help you just improve the overall experience that you have. But the main thing that you can do to help you get better at a spinning rod is get one. Doesn't have to be an expensive one. Get out to the yard, get out to the pond. If you got a yard and you don't have access to water, put your 5-gallon bucket in there, get a plug, something with no hooks on it, and practice throwing at that bucket. And when you can make it time and time and time and time and time again within that area, I'm talking in the coast, 50, 60, 70, 40, 30 feet away, you're good to go. It will really help and improve your catch ratios. So until then, this is Captain Drew Cavanaugh with Florida Inshore Fishing Charters. Have a great day. Thank you.